Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, your Kings insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me, Mr. Sean Cunningham from Fox 40. Sean, how are you?
James, Brenden, folks, I'm good. I actually really enjoy these late night sessions, and it's a little bit different. I kind of feel a bit more in my wheelhouse. I am not going to bring in alcohol as much as I'm tempted to. I'm going to keep with water. Reusing the King's Kool-Aid, reusing the bottles from the game, as it says to do. This bottle's made from always reuse and recycle. So,
yeah, whatever the Kings tell Sean to do, he does.
I don't. Sometimes they get very, very mad at me.
That's right. And also, Mr. Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast and the Kings Herald. Brenden, what's going on?
Not much, guys. I'm doing good. Exciting day with the Sacramento Kings, that's for sure.
And it's past Brendan's bedtime. So.
Yeah, I'm not of drinking age, so I kind of stay out of that conversation too.
Awesome. All right, so this thing is live. One of you guys has your mic. I can hear you a little bit on the feedback. I don't know if you don't have earbuds in, but we'll get through it. This is going to be a fun evening of chatting Kings basketball because...
Portland Trailblazers.
Wow, that means Sacramento has moved up to the top 4.
Pick number 6 goes to...
That damn sexy guy delivered the pick. Kings are the number 4 pick in the 2022 NBA draft. Brenden, let's start there. Just your initial thoughts. When it gets to 8 and it's not the Kings, it gets to 7 and it's like, whoa, it's not the Kings. What do you got?
I was fully prepared to be disappointed. Every other pick beforehand was as expected, and I mean, was pretty excited. You know, my initial next thought is please be top 3 because it is a 3-person draft, but it's hard to complain with the Kings landing at 4th there. So hard to not be excited about it, right?
Yeah, I think so. Sean, where are you at?
I'm trying to think about this because I'm not super in love with this year's draft. So of course they'd move up, right? Like, it's exciting for the organization and the fan base. I think they needed a little bit of a win. I think it makes things a little bit more interesting for sure. That being said, like, I think I was telling everybody, including you guys, like, man, if I'm the Kings and I'm at 7, 8, wherever they end up, I'm probably looking to trade. I don't know that I've come off that too much. Maybe I just need a little bit more time to think about it, but I thought about it today, and it's like they're instantly a little bit more relevant, and things look a little bit more interesting. That being said, like, I think there's one person that I really love in the draft, and everybody else I just kind of like, and it's probably not ones that people would think that I would love. I think automatically, me being a Duke fan, they're going to think that I love Paolo Banchero, and I don't. That said, if he's at 4, you're thinking about it, right? But I think the guy that jumps off the page for me initially is Jabari, and I don't know that he'll be there. So, but yeah, Kings fans should feel pretty good, especially after the way the day started and seeing my mentions. I think it didn't. I think a lot of them wanted to find a cliff to jump off of.
Oh, Sean, we're going to get to that later. That clearly is Tuesday overreactions.
Oh, boy. Yes, it's perfect.
It is perfect for Tuesday overreaction. Sean's favorite segment of the show. All right, so, hey, look, we don't usually go live, but tonight we're doing it. Sean had to work, and so we waited until Sean got off.
It's always my fault. It's always me.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I also think, like, when you have an event like this, something like this happens, I think sometimes it is better to give it like 5 or 6 hours to sort of, saturate and let it like sink in and kind of figure out some things and process a little bit of it, as opposed to like the instant knee-jerk reaction, which, to be honest with you, half of it was like really stupid. Like, a lot of the comments I saw was just like, holy cow. Like, really? That's where we're going right now? So for me, like, I think it's good that we're doing this a little bit later. Sorry if you guys have to stay up late. The podcast will be in its regular form after the show. We'll upload it to YouTube, or it'll be uploaded already. On top of that, we'll do the regular everyday audio file. It'll go out in the newsletter and everything else. But that brings us sort of to the business side. Since we are doing this live, do us a favor. Number one, subscribe to the Kings Beat YouTube channel. It's right down below if you're watching on YouTube. Also, give us a thumbs up. That helps us. And the comment section is going absolutely nuts. So 200 people plus in the feed already, 220 something. That's tremendous. It's better than some radio shows that I see in the afternoon, maybe like 300 times better. So I think we're doing okay right now. And I definitely appreciate all of you guys staying up late and hitting us up and chilling with us. So we got a jam-packed show. It is a ton of fun when you're watching a draft. And I don't know, and Sean, you've been doing this forever. I've been doing this forever. I still, as soon as the draft starts and that music starts, I still get like nervous, like butterflies in my stomach because
Why?
I don't know, because the draft does mean so much, and you're just sitting there like, ooh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And every time that, somehow the Kings move up, it's like this major moment. And then for me, like my 19-year-old comes sprinting downstairs as soon as it, like, they're not the number 7 and it goes to commercial. He comes running down like, oh no! Like, and I think that's how everybody out there feels. Like a lot of people here, they're like sitting here enjoying the fact that the Kings moved up. And Sean, do you have any sort of reaction, or are you just like, whatever?
No, I mean, I don't. I mean, the draft is always fun. I enjoy the NBA draft more than any other draft in sports. But I also realize, being a lifelong Sacramentan and, growing up in this town, the draft is kind of like Kings fan Super Bowl in a way. This is, even the lottery is kind of something to rally around and
Sick
historically.
burn, Sean.
I don't mean it to. I don't mean it to sound that way, but it's kind of true. Like, I mean, you don't have playoffs. This is kind of where you hope your franchise can instantly change, and it hasn't gone well. But we'll see. I think number 4. It hasn't happened that often. Tyreek, right? The last one, Rookie of the Year, didn't pan out huge, but he had a great first year.
I think he's the only time they've ever been at number 4. Outside of that, I think Billy Owens was number 3.
Oof.
Of course, Nervous Purvis was number 1. They've drafted number 7 like a bunch of times. Fox was 5, but outside of that, you had the Bagley pick at 2. I don't think they've been at 4. And Cousins was 5, and Thomas Robinson was 5. But 4 I think it's only Tyreek that I can remember. Brenden, what was your first thoughts? Were you like freaking out?
Yeah, I'm a little closer to your 19-year-old's reaction than Sean's probably. I was pretty excited. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, just making it past the commercial is an accomplishment. Like, there's a tenseness that you just get a ride through that commercial and a sense of excitement that you don't know if. Because to me, there's 2 guys that I think fit perfectly. So I was really excited about the idea of Jabari Smith Jr. and Chet Holmgren, one or the other. And that slowed down a little bit, but I still was really excited when they moved up to 4. And I think it's certainly a better position than they were in at the beginning of the day. So
I think that's what we always have to hope for, right? That at the end of the day, you're in a better position, that somehow you find a way to move up at least something. You got to move up at least somewhere and like build some excitement. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch this thing unfold. And I mean, it's happened a couple of times in the last few years. Again, the De'Aaron Fox draft, I think they went from 8 to 3, and then the pick swap put them back at 5. And then, of course, Marvin, I think they were 8 and then jumped to 2. And outside of that, like most of the years, they fell. Like the DeMarcus Cousins year, they fell. The Tyreek Evans year, they were the worst team in the NBA. Blake Griffin was supposed to be the number 1 pick and was the number 1 pick. And they ended up having 3 teams jump over them to go 1, 2, 3. And as a worst record at that point, they only had 3 teams go in the lottery, and you ended up number 4. I think it was the same. Second worst record the year that they got Cousins at number 5. They fell 3 spots again. More often than not, the Kings fall in the draft. They always win the coin flip, but typically they fall in the draft, and it's just been the last couple of years. We'll start with Brenden. Brenden, does this change your keep it, trade it a little bit? When you're looking at this, was your instant reaction is like, oh, I see dollar signs, as opposed to, oh, I see a player that I love right there?
Yeah, I think, again, it's all really circumstantial based on what's available, obviously. But I'm going to have to see how I feel about Jaden Ivey a little bit more first, to be honest. Like, I think there's a chance that that's a good enough talent that maybe the Kings don't want to pass on it. I think that there is an avenue to where that fits offensively. Defensively probably isn't amazing, but sometimes if you just have that level of talent available to you, that's what you need to go ahead with. I'm probably leaning more towards traded, though. It obviously depends on what's available, but I was of the opinion it's kind of a 3-person draft, and then it falls off after that. So assuming that the 3 is Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, and then Paulo Banchero going as well, then I'm probably trade 4.
Sean, what do you got?
Oh, my air conditioner just struck up, so it might be a little loud. I'm going to go turn that off here in a second. But, I agree with Brenden. I think those 3 will be off the board, and there's certainly some other guys that I like, I'd be okay with. But I just feel like overall, and I kind of, I sound a little bit like a broken record at this point. I just feel like you're positioned in a way that if you can move this pick and it can turn into something really substantial, you do it. I think you have to be a little bit responsible for sure, but you're I don't know. It is, and you get into kind of a weird dynamic here too, because it all kind of goes back to the front office. You have Monty McNair, who is going to be coming into a year where there's a little bit of doubt. I mean, I guess we won't find out until later this summer, likely probably late August, around September, whether or not they're going to extend him, if maybe he comes in as a lame duck into the front office, and maybe he won't have the total freedom to be able to shop that pick and turn it into something. Maybe shop that pick and compare it and combine it with another future first and see, really swing for the fences as to try and put something with De'Aaron and Sabonis, or even moving De'Aaron with a pick possibly. Or, all the possibilities that are out there, I think they're going to be really aggressive, and I think they're going to look at it. But I think that's where it gets into this really weird discussion about, will they allow him to do something like that, considering the fact he doesn't really have the benefit or the luxury of security on his side with years guaranteed to be able to do the job. So we're going to kind of dip our toe in some uncharted waters here.
Yeah, that's it's the big dark cloud hanging over the Kings at this point. It's something that we've talked about on this show a couple of times. That there's a huge issue that Monty McNair's contract is up at the end of this year. There's always been a little bit of gray area where we weren't sure if there was a team option or not. And I've been very clear. I've gone on record multiple times that I believe that when you allow somebody to make the type of trade that Monty McNair did, that he should be allowed to hire his own coach. And when you let a general manager hire his own coach, you need to actually match up contracts at least somewhat close, so we could actually see something. I would be shocked if we don't see McNair at some point this summer get, even if it's a 2-year extension. I would hope that it would be a little bit longer than that, but you got to give this guy an opportunity to see it through and take away this question that Sean just had, which is it's very clear. The question is, do you let Monty make the final decision on this pick? Do you let him trade this pick? How do you handle this when he's not under contract going forward? And I think it's a huge issue. Sam, our good friend Sam Amick, once again put it out there on Monday that we're entering this weird situation, and it was even a topic of discussion with some of the coaches that were being brought in, and the Kings decided not to clear it up before they hired a coach. And so at some point, you're going to have to, if I'm Monty McNair, I want an answer. I don't, stop messing around. Stop leaving me hanging out in the wind. I got to know if you're gonna let me build this thing, or if you're just gonna like have me make a bunch of like huge moves for the franchise and then leave me hanging. And I think it's awkward. And I mean,
I think there's also another dynamic to it that just bears putting out there that I look, speculation on my part. I'm not saying I know this, but I don't think it would shock anybody that, let's say they move. I think I mentioned this in last week's podcast, that there's another scenario on the table that could happen where maybe you don't go forward with Monty, and you let him go into the season. You don't give him the extension. You go into the season. You figure out what happens. Maybe you part amicably and he goes away. But maybe Wes Wilcox doesn't, and maybe you elevate him in another way, and then you're hiring somebody that joins Wes Wilcox. Again, there's so many options that could be at play in scenarios that's just one that comes in mind to me, because obviously Wes Wilcox does have that front office experience, if you will, and he's worked in every facet of the front office. Having them both is a nice luxury, but if, let's say, you move on from Monty McNair and you keep the continuity of Wes Wilcox to bring in somebody else, that way you don't have we have a coach that this GM didn't hire. Maybe you just elevate Wes Wilcox, and the person he hires is now in the front office in basketball operations with him. So I do feel like there's so many different little options at play, and I am very, very, very curious as to see, here we are coming into this draft process, what kind of power these guys will have. Certainly, obviously, ownership is going to have ultimate authority. However, it's up to the front office to go out and find these deals. So they still have a job to do, but will they be able to do it? And again, going back to that whole thing, I think that makes it a very, very curious month or so before we get this thing going.
Yeah, I think either one of them or both ideally staying would be ideal, just to line up with Mike Brown. And when you're allowed to make a decision, the magnitude of, like James pointing out, the Tyrese Halliburton, Domantas Sabonis swap, I agree with like being able to see that through. And I think to tie it back to the draft, like, you don't want them being forced or feeling like they have to make short-sighted moves, because if something doesn't turn around right now, then my job is probably not going to be there the next season. And for example, like if they thought Shady and Sharp was that guy and going to be one of the next stars in the league, but he was going to take 2 years, like, oh, well, I can't really do that, because if these next 2 years don't go well and they don't see that same vision, then I can't do that. So I'm going to go with Keegan Murray, who may not have the same upside. Like, that's what scares me, and part of why, like, I think the draft is a good way to see the flexibility that some front offices are allowed.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When you move up to number 4, and we can call this a 3-man draft, but I think we all know that, like, what it is today and what it will be a month from now is probably going to be totally different. Like, there are going to be climbers in this draft. Shaden Sharp is one guy. Again, Jaden Ivey's another that could somehow start moving up and push Paolo Banchero down, or, like, who knows? Maybe they push a Chet Holmgren down. Maybe there's a bunch of scouts who look at him and go, okay, now that we have our hands on him, we can't really go this way at this high in the draft. I think the number 4 pick is actually so valuable, specifically in this draft, because there are going to be teams that fall in love with Jaden Ivey, and there are going to be teams that fall in love with Shaden Sharp. We're already seeing a lot of the Shaden Sharp talk. He's got a monstrous wingspan. I think he's 6'6", 6'7", with a 7-foot wingspan.
He's phenomenal against zero defenders.
He's so phenomenal against no defenders, except for he moves like Andre Miller. Like, I'm just waiting for him to show me game speed. Like, man, you can't just keep making videos that I got to put it on 2 times speed just to see if you can actually run and jump fast, Like, everything looks so slow. But still, like, the fact is that someone is going to be really interested in him and buy into him, and that's why having a top 4 pick is so valuable. I think the Kings they're not in the best position, because the best position clearly would be number 1. But I could even make the argument that in this year's draft, the chance of you getting the wrong pick at number 1 is like 60+%. You could take Chet Holmgren and think that he's going to be great, and next thing you know, you got another. I don't think you'll have another Lucas situation, but you could have another situation where Paolo Banchero is at 25-12, and you're like, holy cow, that guy's incredible, and we missed on him. So I think the Kings are in a situation where they very well could be in a better position at number 4. It's got tremendous trade value. They jumped up and basically went from like a really good rotational player with the number 8 overall pick or the number 7 overall pick to potentially an all-star player in trade return. And I think that's huge. And so I think they're going to have options, but the options are really cool because what they can do, they can wait and see if one of the big guys fall to them at number 4. They can wait and have teams try to jump ahead and really focus on, trying to get one of the Shaden Sharps of the world or Ivy, or they can just like deal it quick and go get the big player that they want if the right deal comes in. So I really think that, they can move back. They could stay where they're at. I don't think you jump up. I don't think the Kings have the ammunition to jump up. And I also don't think that any of these players are a sure thing that they're such a sure thing that you have to go up and get a number 1 or number 2 pick in this draft and spend like another future first round pick to do it. That to me would be dangerous ground.
And the feedback to me that I remember even a month ago going into the offseason, so much conversation Kings fans would talk about Keegan Murray, and it would seem like that would dominate. And I think they're looking at team need, and certainly that'll kind of stick out a little bit like a sore thumb. But I wonder by getting the 4th pick if that changes their calculus, because he's like the darling on social media, at least from what I've seen. I think you guys have seen a lot of that. I don't know if it's shifted lately, but even today it seemed like I'm still seeing a lot of number 4 Keegan Bradley and
Keegan Murray.
Yeah. Excuse me, Keegan Murray. Keegan Bradley's the golfer. Sorry, Keegan Murray. Yeah, and it's just I'm wondering how much it's changed, or if now they're setting their sights on something different or even higher potentially.
I think it's Jaden Ivey right now. I think it's the fit versus best player available conversation, and everyone is saying that Jaden Ivey, or some people Shady and Sharp, like very much preaching fit, are best player available over fit for the most part from what I've seen.
Yeah, number 4, you have to go best player available. There's no other conversation. And I mean, again, we could talk about whether some of these guys will fit. Will Ivy fit in a backcourt with De'Aaron Fox? I mean, it's going to be a little rough. I mean, especially on the defensive end. But man, it would be fun. Like I've said this before, but like whoever is Ivy's like his publicist, it's like, hey, you kind of look like Ja Morant. Let's go full Ja Morant and make everyone look at you and think, oh man, he looks just like Ja Morant. And then you watch him jump out of the gym. He does all these things, but he's just not Ja. He doesn't have the same skill set, but you're still like, you're watching him trying to do player comps, and the only player comp that comes up ever is, that he looks just like Ja. He's got the jump. He's got the speed, the quickness, a change of direction. He's just not there. He's just not the same player.
I wonder if that's an analytic, by the way, like on the whiteboard, if they just go most fun. Because honestly, and this is entertainment, guys, it's like, it's fun. It's supposed to be Bull Durham, my favorite sports movie ever. Bull Durham, by the way, Brenden, is a baseball movie with Kevin Costner from the 80s, and it's required viewing, and you can put that on your homework assignment.
On your homework assignment list.
Yeah, but when he goes out there to the mound visit, Crash Davis, played by Kevin Costner, and he goes, it's fun, goddammit. Like, we're supposed to be having fun. It's baseball. And this is basketball, obviously, I get it, but it's like, that seemed to be missing at times until they got Domantas Sabonis. All of a sudden, you went from the team that Dave Yeager had and trying to turn it into a fun team, and he's using smoke and mirrors. We get it, but at least they were fun, right? And then you get the Luke Walton stuff, and it's clunky. They're trying to do different things, and it's just clunky. And then finally, by the time you get Domantas, the ball's moving again. The ball's just zipping across, and you have playmaking, and albeit a small sample size, it was fun again. There was a fun to it, and I think people really took interest. So if you can't be good, be fun, but hopefully you can be both.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brenden.
Yeah, I think Ivy definitely fits into that. It's almost like you're getting another De'Aaron Fox, interestingly enough. And I think that there's ways that 2 De'Aaron Foxes don't complement each other, but I can tell you they'd be very fun, like Sean's talking about. In the open court, Domantas Sabonis gets a rebound and has 2 outlet options. There's De'Aaron Fox 1 and De'Aaron Fox 2. Like, I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I really do think that the potential is there. I mean, the potential for like that to be a really, really good pairing, or at least a really exciting pairing. I think you're gonna have a difficult time winning games, and especially year one and year two. Ivy is gonna take a couple of years to fully develop, and when he does, he could be one of those players that everyone in the league is like, man, I can't believe it. Like he could be the best player in this draft. And I think again, Shaden Sharp, the fact that he hasn't played, he was a number one high school player. And then what did he went in and like changed his year for going to the NBA. He skipped his senior year in high school and bumped up.
That was that COVID, because of COVID or something? What I forget the circumstances.
No, he went to summer school and he had to graduate before the 2021 NBA draft. No, before the first game of the 2021 season. And there was some question as to whether he has actually graduated high school in time to be eligible. But I think that's being figured, or it was getting figured out, and
he's athletic enough that he has.
Yeah, he's athletic enough that he just skipped over. That's
he definitely
how
made the
athletic he
deadline.
is. Yeah, I mean, he was so athletic and so long, he was able to reach past his senior year in high school with no problems. So, I mean, look, I think he's a really exciting player, and he could be the best player out of this draft. And I think that that's the cool thing, that the Kings are where they're sitting. It's in a good position. And then, so if we go through the top five of the draft, right, we've got the Magic at number one. We've got OKC at number two. We've got the Rockets at number three, Kings at four, Pistons at five. Just intriguing wise, how intriguing is it that the Kings are one pick ahead of the Pistons? Because that's a team that we keep talking about. Well, could the Kings and Pistons come to some sort of agreement on a trade? But now you're looking at, like, what if the Pistons fall in love with somebody? What if, again, Paolo Banchero falls to number four and the Pistons call up and say, hey, well, how about we go from 4 to 5 and we'll give you Sadiq Bey? Like, that's why, when I look at the draft order, or what if we work out some deal with Jeremy Grant? Now that the fact that the Kings somehow jumped ahead of the Pistons, it adds another layer of intrigue to this draft.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they can trade with 6 and try to get Buddy Hield or Tyrese Halliburton. There's a lot of different possibilities here.
Look what he did.
I think 5 with Detroit is interesting. They've traded with the team twice, once in each of the last 2 seasons. I don't know that moving up 1 pick is something that's going to be all too much value in this draft. Like, it would really take Detroit falling in love with somebody that's there at 4, right? And Sacramento having the intel and kind of willingness to say, we're not going to take him ourselves. Yeah, it could be interesting. James, are you kind of with what sounded like Sean and I of Jabari, Chet, and Paulo being the likely top 3, though?
It's a likely top 3, but that doesn't mean, I mean, we saw it last year where Scotty Barnes jumped to number 4. That was just stunning.
He was my top 5.
He was well worth it. Well, he was top 5, but I don't think I don't know that any expert had him above Suggs. Was it the right pick? Oh, heck yeah, it was the right pick. I loved him. I thought he was incredible, but I still looked at the draft the way that it was going to lay out and thought he would go 5 or 6. I even thought he might fall a little bit lower than that. So yeah, I'm pretty sold that it's a 3-man draft. And like, again, I've had conversations with people within the walls and they thought that it's a 3-man draft. I don't think they're as high on Keegan Murray as people on the outside are. And I certainly don't think, again, like Keegan Murray at number 5 number 4, that's not happening. Like, I don't think there's any way. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think there's any way. Just the upside of the other players is too high.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this thing's just going to continue to evolve. But I think, as Brenden says, I think even for the last month for me in a draft that there's a lot of question marks in. I don't think it's a very deep draft at all. I think we kind of know that. I'm not overly blown away by the talent in this draft, but I will say that 1 through 3, I just don't see that changing between now and draft day. So I do think 4 is where it gets interesting, and Wouldn't you know it? Here the Kings are. And by the way, can I just mention this? I know this is our first time doing a live show. I've been really I mentioned my mentions earlier today, and you see a different side of people on social media, but I actually really, really enjoy these YouTube comments pouring in at this late hour, because there's some good ones, man. There's a lot of really interesting ideas and people who are just really excited about the draft, and I'm hoping it keeps that same momentum as the conversation evolves.
Sean, can you hover and hit the show button? So if there's one that you like, if you go over to that, you should be able to click show and pop it right up.
Oh, okay.
So if there is something, just you can pull up something. So if there is something
you know what?
like,
I'm sorry. I was looking at the ones on YouTube. I didn't even know about these comments on the StreamYard.
well, this is a YouTube comment.
Oh, these are the same ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
it feeds directly in. It feeds directly into our the back end of StreamYard.
I missed the production meeting.
If you hover, if you hover over them, you can actually pull them up at again.
We might not be able to on
Chad has
our
the
end.
biggest upside of anyone, and it just covers Brenden. So this is the best way of
Perfect.
If you want to cover Brenden and have him be off of the show, then just write a really good question that's long.
Perfect.
Yeah, but Sean, or Brenden, if something pops out to you guys that you really like, pull it out, throw it up there.
Gotcha. I'll have to go back to some of the good ones I saw. But yeah, there's just so many people. I mean, Keegan, Paolo. I mean, you got so many different people who are throwing their 2 cents in, and we're still a month away from the draft. So this is going to certainly elevate, and just the conversation always gets crazy around this time. So again, I think becoming more relevant with the 4th pick certainly adds more options, and it's good to see this type of response for sure.
I have a question for you, James.
Uh-oh.
If any of Jabari, Chet, or Paulo are there at 4, are you just taking them? Simple as that.
Absolutely.
Any of the 3?
Yeah, actually, I probably that's why if I'm the Kings, you're not trading the pick until the 3 picks before you go.
Sean doesn't look as certain.
Well, I mean, look, if there's a deal out there that's incredible, then sure. That of course, if there's a deal out there that you're looking at and you're like, okay, if you can get John Collins and not have to give up a whole bunch of stuff outside of the number 4 pick, which I don't even know if they'll do that. But, again, I think the move from 7 to 4, it cuts your cost in half. Like, I think that you can go out and get a player with a first-round pick with, other matching salary stuff and not have to give up a 2nd pick or not have to give up a bunch of 2nd rounds as well. So you got what I'm saying? Like, I think the move, that's where the value is, that you really did increase what you can get. But still, if there is a player you think that can really help you, that's 19 or 20 years old, and it may take a year or two, but the ceiling is outlandish, man, I would really have a tough time, But that's why I think this might be the best of all possible worlds, being at number 4. Because there is a really good possibility that someone will jump ahead of one of these big guys. There always is. There's always that possibility. And if that happens, you're in prime time real estate. Not only can you keep the pick and get one of the players that you want, you can trade the pick for even more, because now one of those top 3 have moved down. Like, I think they're all... What if you fall in love with like a guy like Shaden Sharp, and Ivy moves up and Banchero moves down, and then you're able to swap 4 for 5, not only pick up, a Sadiq Bey type player, but also get the player that you want at number 5. Like, there are all kinds of ways that this thing could end up being where you don't just get one really good young player, but you get one really good young player and a really good secondary player, rotational players that can help you. So, did I answer your question, Brenden?
You did, but I'm curious now who Sean wouldn't take out of that top 3.
Well, I look at it again at the top 3, and like I said, Brenden, I think I agree with you in how that 3 will go. But if it doesn't, I'm looking to trade right away. Right away. If it's not Jabari Smith, and it's, Chet Holmgren or Paolo Banchero, I'm probably looking to trade that immediately. Because now I think things have gotten even more interesting. And again, I do think it's
fighting words, Brenden.
Yeah,
he said he'd trade.
I know.
He said he would trade Chet.
Wow.
I know. I mean,
I knew
because,
Paulo
again,
was coming.
like I'm very curious of what the market is for someone like him. I think there's a ton of intrigue around, particularly Holmgren. Banchero, I like. I mean, you guys know me. I'm a Duke fan, but I think he might be a little soft. I think he's definitely talented. I think he's going to be a good NBA player. I don't know if he's the right fit for the Kings. And, there's only really one or two guys that I really, really like. So to see these three, if they were to deviate in any way, all of a sudden I get more aggressive on the trade front, because I think at that point there are so many other teams that would look at some of those guys and may be willing to maybe blow up their situation a little bit more, and I think you could be the benefactor of something really special.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're going to have to let this play out a little bit more. Like, all of these things move along pretty quickly, but, the draft in a 4 or 5 week span, things can change dramatically. I mean, we got to get through the draft combine, which is happening right now, but we haven't seen the numbers yet. We haven't seen actual height, weight, vertical, all that stuff. That usually does change some of the calculus when it comes to players. The interview process hasn't changed. And I'll even go to take Sean's side here on a totally bizarre. I had a buddy who always you can't be a really good quarterback if you don't have a quarterback name. And if you have a really bad name, you're probably not going to be very good. And he always
First
was
or
making
last
fun of
name?
me. Well,
The whole
it just
name.
depends. Like Todd Van Poppel never had any chance to be any
no
good
chance.
at all.
He's a
Nope,
kicker.
didn't.
He's a kicker.
Well, yeah, I mean, but he was a pitcher for the A's, a first round pick, and it was like, man, that guy's never going to be any good. You can't be good being named Todd Van Poppel. So he's always like Tom Brady, Joe Montana,
Joe Burrow. That's a quarterback name. That's a hell of a quarterback name.
Yeah, all of them. There's so many. And then who's the old quarterback for the Bears? Where's John Heuristic at? Who's the quarterback that they basically
Jim McMahon, the cool one?
No, Jim McMahon's a great quarterback name.
No, I thought you said the old
Jay
boy-
Cutler?
he's an old-
No, the one 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Who was their starting quarterback?
Justin
Jay
Fields?
Cutler.
Before Justin Fields. The other guy they drafted in the first round. Anyway, my point is, you could tell right away, oh, he's going to be horrible. Even Jimmy Garoppolo is it's kind of a cool name, but really it's on the bubble of not being a good name. Where Trey Lance, you're like, oh, that's sick. He's got a good quarterback name. So I come back to, oh, there we go, Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky had no chance to be good at all. He had no chance.
I went with the Men in Black mind eraser on anything Mitch Trubisky. Yeah. Blake Bortles, same thing.
Blake
Bye.
Bortles.
Terrible.
Yeah. The only reason Blake Bortles you're kind of okay with is because he was on, his what is the show with Veronica Mars?
What?
The show with Ted Danson, where they're all dead.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
of
with
no
Kristen
help here.
Bell.
Yeah, Kristen Bell.
I don't know. I don't watch it.
Anyway, one of the character, it was the biggest Jacksonville Jaguars fan ever, and talked about Blake Bortles all the time. It was his favorite player.
Idiot.
Yeah, The Good Place.
Well,
There we go.
Yes.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. The Good Place. Yeah, good work. Good work, people. It's late. It is late. Yeah, so you can't have I worry that Chet Holmgren is not a good name, and you're going to be like Paolo Banchero. Man, Paolo Banchero could be really good. I mean, right?
Jaden Ivey, that's a star.
Yeah, that's a star name.
Good work by Terrence, by the way, pointing out Blaine Gabbert, because what a terrible quarterback. I'd rather have Bortles over Blaine Gabbert.
But you see what I mean?
Sorry. It's this chat, man. I gotta look at this chat, and it's just totally distracting.
Sean Cunningham is a good quarterback name. Yeah, yeah.
I was a third stringer. I was terrible. I threw 3 picks in a homecoming game. Look it up.
Oh no! Really?
And then I separated my shoulder trying to make a tackle on the second. It wasn't a pick 6, so I saved the pick 6, but it was bad.
Oh wow!
Douglas Tigers
Hustle
baby.
player.
Sean was a quarterback. Okay, so is there any of the other teams around the Kings, even in the top 10? I think the Wizards, all of a sudden, the Wizards have a bunch of forwards that would all look good on the Sacramento Kings. would you be willing to go down to number 10 for Kyle Kuzma? 5 for 10, Kyle Kuzma.
I'd be intrigued, very intrigued.
Yeah.
Especially,
be very tempting.
Especially when you've got someone like Sabonis on your team. I think he instantly becomes better. Like, no matter what you think of Kyle Kuzma, I think you get a better version of Kyle Kuzma when you're hopefully playing up tempo and you have a piece like Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah. What did you think of Sabonis's outfit tonight?
I was great with it. The vest looked a little weird, but just having no tie and just the unbuttoned shirt was kind of like, he's here to party.
Yeah.
It was his style. Yeah, and clearly he's a good luck charm out there. I think he should wear it every game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it worked, right? Let's just play it again because it's such a short clip, but since we're this far in and there's so many people still here.
Portland Trailblazers.
Wow, that means Sacramento has moved up to the top 4.
Pick number 6 goes to...
We don't even care. We don't care who got numbers.
He almost looked like he had no idea what happened.
He's like, oh yeah, I'm not on the Pacers anymore.
He's looking at Dame, and Dame has this this "why did I come here" look, and then Sabonis is kind of like sharing that misery and go, "Oh wait, no, this is good. This is a good thing."
Yeah, I look, I think this is it's a good night for the Sacramento Kings. All right, so look, we have 340 something people in watching live right now. That's amazing. So we're just gonna reset it. Hit the thumbs up button. Give us a thumbs up. And while you're there, just go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you're already there, and that would be great. We've got this isn't the only news of the day. Again, we're going to cover a couple more things on the actual draft itself, and the business of basketball will kind of round back up and maybe do some things on what we think that we would do if we're in this situation. But first, we have to get to Tuesday overreactions. Our good friend Sean Cunningham, right here, from Fox 40, of course, broke the news today that Sean.
It's not my fault.
We've got nepotism going on. Nepotism has ruled the day.
Going on.
You could have hit me with a bunch of things that I would have thought, oh, that's out of left field. I would have never, ever guessed that Anjali Ranadivé would be elevated to the position of assistant general manager of the Stockton Kings. Sean, what is happening? What is happening, Sean?
A lot. There's a lot happening. I did at first some of the mentions for that report on social media were funny. Some of them were very funny. Some of them were just absolutely disgustingly vile. But, man, you know how...
Anjali does have a good name. That's true.
Anjali.
Good manager name.
Anjali.
Let's make sure we get it right. I don't know where to begin. I've already talked about this so much all day, and in truth, I'll just bring people behind the curtain a little bit. That's awesome. That's an awesome comment. Yeah, great name. I'm stammering here because I've known about this for almost a week, and I didn't believe it when I first heard about it.
And you waited for the lottery day?
No, well, there's a reason. I'll get to that. Ugh. I like this podcast because I can stretch my legs and show the thinking behind what I did. There's a lot of times where I don't break a story I know, and part of it is because I need to know, I like to explore the why. I want to get the context. I want to be able to talk to people about it. I don't like just the headline, and then when people ask me to talk about it, I go, shit, I don't know. I don't know why they did this. I still don't necessarily know why they did this. I can think of reasons why they would. Let's just take it for what it is. I can think of reasons why they would, because at the end of the day, you're talking about somebody cutting their teeth in the G League, and that's exactly what that minor league system is made for. However, as we know, with this front office, we've got members of this front office and previous front offices in Sacramento and littered all throughout the NBA where people have really paid their dues. You know, they like if you become an assistant GM of a G League team, like that's not nothing. That's not it's a stepping stone. It's a big stepping stone, but it is still a very, very important role and a stepping stone. It's not starting in player personnel. And I'll equate it this way. Nepotism's all over the place in business. Why should professional sports be any different? Why should the NBA be any different? Coaching is so weird this way because we talk about the Phil Jackson tree, the Greg Popovich tree, all these people that come from different things, right? Even in football, you got Bill Belichick's son on the coaching staff. You have Deuce Gruden, John Gruden's son, somehow with a role with the Raiders for these past however many years. Coaching, it makes sense because you can get on a staff and nobody really questions. You get in the film room, you get in whatever. You can find your way to a bench. You can go to high school, AAU, college, community college, whatever it be, and you can find your way, even internationally, and you can find your way to the bench. You can come out of the broadcast booth. You can be a former player, whatever. In the front office situation, there's really no blueprint for this. And I think what people really get lost in, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody, titles do matter, right? But let's play a game. Anjali Ranadivé is the assistant GM of the Stockton Kings. That will be announced at some point by the organization. It hasn't been yet.
It's on our Twitter bio.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, official. I think at one point it said GM, if I wasn't mistaken. Somebody sent it to me on their Twitter bio that said actually Stockton Kings GM. And they're like, are we sure that this is an assistant? I said, no, that's all I've been told is assistant. But what if I told you she was, I'm the 30 for 30 guy. What if I told you? What if I told you that Anjali Ranadivé was the director of basketball engagement, which is a role that Alvin Gentry just took, right? I've never heard of that title in my life, right? I've never, and for people who look at the title she just had, which I don't have in front of me, James, I'll have to look at my tweet because I don't want to get it wrong.
I wrote it down. She was something of social responsibility.
Correct. And I'm with everyone. That title sounds like ridiculous and don't know what necessarily that does. I can peel the curtain back a little bit. That's not the Kings. That's the NBA. Every team in the NBA has changed their community outreach to, what did you say again, James?
Social responsibility. She was working in the social responsibility department.
Right. So that's on a business side, community. There's, that sprays to a lot of fields within the business office. These are things I needed context for over the course of the past few days. I knew it was going to be announced, but I figured it wouldn't be announced until later this summer. That's typically how we see a lot of the things happen with G League. Even with Kings front offices and trainers and all that, you usually don't see like an announcement come until later in the summer. So I figured I was playing with some time. And I wanted to have like in-person conversations about this because in fairness to her, I knew that one, this is a crazy situation and it's coming off of a coaching search where your owner, Vivek Ranadivé, is constantly talking about getting criticized and meddling his team. And I always point out it's not unique to Sacramento. I don't want to come off as a Vivek apologist, but I've seen the jokes today. Okay, we settled on Mike Brown. So if Mike Brown, then this, right? This had to be maybe part of that calculus to wean him off of Mark Jackson. And I don't think that's necessarily true either. But point is, she was there sitting courtside with him, when the coaches were there. And, we haven't had the benefit of being when she had Mark Jackson and Mike Brown and she's had a voice. It's her father. She's definitely going to have a voice in this. Now she has an actual voice in the room, and she does so with a very important position that does flow over into the Sacramento Kings organization as well. So it's a stepping stone. What does it look like beyond this? We don't know. but she brings no experience. I mean, just a few years ago, she was a budding pop star. Is that now on the back burner? Probably. I don't criticize her for wanting to do this. In fact, I think it's actually kind of bold in a way, because I think she and her father both know that she's going to be slung through the mud. It's not just fans. I mean, there's NBA people that are up in arms about this, literally thinking that the Kings have absolutely, as an organization, zero respect for people who've paid their dues in this industry. I was told as much that today. But again, I would point to several people in the league, and I think Monty McNair is one of them, where you pay your dues, right? He's paid his dues. I mean, this guy's been in every single kind of situation. He's got a background that screams you're built for the front office. But as Vivek Ranadivé, as I like to point out, he told you what he was when he took over this team. He is the irritant in the solution. And he's this 3.0 and all these things. And if you had to start her somewhere, this is a hell of a place to start her.
Okay, so Brenden, you have something to add?
That's a lot. I'm sorry, guys. That was a lot. But there's just so much to unpack there.
Yeah, because I can race through my stuff, but Brenden, go ahead.
My quick 2 cents would just be, is she taking up space so there's one less basketball mind going towards the decisions there, or is she more on the business side, as it kind of sounds? Because if she's filling a position that instead would be filled by somebody that was more seasoned and experienced in basketball, and this specifically, then that's where I'm a little bit more concerned. But
oh no, these are player and team evaluations. I mean, these are development. I mean, this is everything. She's reporting to Paul Johnson, the GM of the Stockton Kings, and she will have a say in a lot of things. And it's interesting that we weren't this past week. We were not able to look at a lot of these pre-draft workouts before the combine. And had we been able to be in there, we would have seen her ever present right there, working along the front office staff, getting to pick through a lot of these draft prospects, because a lot of these players could end up not being drafted, being part of Summer League, and possibly on a G League roster.
Okay, so a couple of things. Number one, everyone loves my giant cup. It is a giant cup.
That is huge.
It's a huge cup, but it carries like 2 cups of hot tea. So my wife went to Cal, and so this cup is actually really...
Jason Jones applauds it.
Yeah, Jason Jones loves a cup. So there you go, people. There's a giant cup. It's also like So I Married an Axe Murderer cup, which put that on your list, Brenden. So I Married an Axe Murderer. It is another film that you must watch.
Mike Myers and Nancy Travis definitely need to see that movie.
Yes, Mike Myers plays a couple of roles. Yeah, and there's one-liners that I use all the time from that movie. Okay, so here's I'm gonna.
Is it Heed Pants Now?
Yeah, or it's an orange on a toothpick. That's what's gotta be.
Yeah.
If like you want my body and you think I'm sexy, yeah. So so I'm going to handle this gently. I have been very clear here again and again, and I've been very clear on the radio. I don't ever have any problem with Anjali Ranadivé being part of Vivek's thought process and being part of like the think. So like he goes to his son and he has conversations all the time, and so Anjali used to be part of a bunch of like the committees and stuff. If Anjali took that role, I would have Anjali. What I'm gonna keep butchering it.
It's okay.
Like I have seen her in a music video where she's got a monkey on her head, and there's dune buggies and elephants in the scene at the same time, which is totally bizarre. But the problem, I don't have a problem with like the lineage. Someone has to run this team when Vivek's gone. So, and I don't care if it's one of his 2 sons or if it's his daughter. I don't care at all. I just don't understand giving her a role like this. If you want to get her into the basketball side, give her some made-up weird title that you just, like with what you did with Alvin Gentry. Like it's okay to make up some title where she's going to be part of the basketball side, but she's going to be watching stuff, right? And she's going to be part of it, but the GM, the assistant GM of the G League, that might be one of the most difficult things that we've ever, like, you don't just have to know the 450 people in the league. You have to know every two-way player. Then you have to have a Rolodex of people that you have scouted over years that may or may not be ready to come back into the league from overseas, that may, what about when there's COVID and they gut your roster and all of a sudden you got to get back up to 10 players and you got to find dudes who are playing at a YMCA in Waco, Texas? Like, there is so much to this job that you have to understand. And I guess it's possible that Paul Johnson is just like a savant and has all of this underhand and he's going to help train her and do all this stuff. I just don't get the why you skipped all of these steps and just gave her a position that is actually really high. And I had someone ask me within the walls, how does Vivek kind of fix the image issue that clearly he has, and clearly he does know that he has, or at least the people around him know that he has. And I think it's really, really clear. You stop like this. This is the type of stuff that's like, like, how upset would everyone have been if I would have been named the assistant GM to the Stockton Kings?
It probably would have gone over better than this.
At
James.
least I have 13 years of experience watching every single game and watching prospects and studying the draft. I mean, to me, that's the problem. It's, if you want to bring her in the fold, bring her in the fold, but you gave her a gigantic title. And whether it was money or whatever, I'm not sure why you did that.
Can I paint another picture too? Like,
yeah.
I feel this because I think, again, we talk about how titles matter. Sacramento Kings had 2 assistant GMs at one point. Like, you could hire another assistant GM. Most G League teams don't have 2. You usually have a GM and an assistant. The point I'm trying to make is, even at AAA baseball, okay, right here in Sacramento with the River Cats, oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes, your person who's heading up PR in these minor league staffs that are so truncated ends up being your assistant GM. You know what I mean? So it's like, yes, it's a nice title, and clearly titles matter when people are trying to get jobs, but I think there's a little bit of a saving grace there. To me, it's not so much of her being the assistant GM with the Stockton Kings. To me, what did that say? I think she's assistant to
office,
the GM. The office. That's perfect.
Yeah,
that's
perfect. It is. Good
work.
work.
To me, it's not the shock of her being an assistant GM with the Stockton Kings, because honestly, good. You're doing it through the G League. You know what I mean? Like, she wants to get involved with that. If that's truly what she wants to do, great. I support her. Do what she. I wish her well. I hope she's great. I hope she's phenomenal. But you just set yourself up for such failure. And I feel like it's the what's next. Okay, great. She's the assistant GM of the Stockton Kings. What's the end game? And again, like, it's one thing for the Warriors to do this. It's one thing for the Lakers to do this. It's one thing for any team that's had championships and success, when the Buss family can put people all throughout there that are answering to Rob Pelinka on the NBA level. It's one thing for them to do that because of the success, and it doesn't register a blip on the radar. But when you're the Sacramento Kings and you haven't sniffed the playoffs in 16 years, and you're the worst team arguably in professional sports, it's nuclear, because it's shit like this that gets absolutely just blown up, and it's at your own doing. Like, let's pretend. Like, I wish her well. If she wants to do this, if you're Vivek, hey Vivek, why wouldn't you just wait till you make the playoffs or something? Sniff a little bit of success, give her a smaller role, whatever it is, and then do it. Because now you're just feeding the beast. It's almost like Vivek Ranadivé is trolling all of us. I mean, I feel like he had to know that this was going to go over like a fart in church. I really do. However, I don't think he gives a damn. I mean, look at everything Vivek Ranadivé has been said about him, his ownership style, all that stuff throughout this entire time he's been in Sacramento. You could argue that he's been through worse, but this one, to me, even as a reporter, objectively, is among the biggest head scratchers I've ever seen.
Dude, I wouldn't even respond with some of this stuff that was given to me. I wouldn't even use it. Like, I'm not using that. I'm not putting that out there.
What do you mean?
like list of names of people who are out there doing similar. Well, and that's the problem. Some of these, they're not out there doing similar things. They're out there, like, sure, there are a bunch of kids of owners that work for organizations, sure, but like, you just skip like a bunch of steps. I mean, she came back, like, she started working for the team like not even maybe at the beginning of last season.
Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, at the beginning, but it was in a
it was
totally
last
different
summer,
role.
to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, it was totally in a totally different role. And that's fine. Like, again, those roles are out there. There was some murmurs behind the scenes, trust me. And there are going to be more murmurs, but like it's just avoidable. I mean, the only reason why this isn't the topic of the day throughout the league is because the NBA draft lottery just happened. And the Kings moved up. Like, it's almost like they knew they were moving up. So, hey, but then it's you broke the news. So,
well,
like,
and
you hit him today.
The reason it hit today, I'm sorry, I don't think I actually got to this point. But
oh yeah, go ahead.
The reason it happened today, guys, is because she showed up in Chicago at the Combine. I'm waking up to messages on my phone from player personnel people, scouts from other teams, G League, all this stuff that are seeing this. Like, oh my gosh, why is she here? And, people see that she's her new title, what it is. And I'm like, well, this is going to get out, And I thought even still earlier in the day, when I'm still trying in the process of gathering more information, I thought I was still going to get beat on it. But I didn't care if I got beat on it. I just wanted to be able to explain it, because here in Sacramento, people still want to know why the hell this is happening. And
yeah,
it's the why more so than the what.
Yeah.
You're not short on fake titles either. They've been pretty kind with those recently. I mean,
hey man,
VP of basketball engagement, chief strategy officer. Stockton doesn't need a chief strategy officer.
I think it's strategery officer, just so you know.
Oh, you're right.
I love whoever did the assistant to the GM. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was M. And I think I accidentally put up a comment that was not that appropriate right afterwards, because I was trying to turn that comment off. Okay, so let's get back to the business of basketball, which is always the funnest topic that we have here.
That was a lot of business, by the way.
That was a lot of business in basketball, but it's also Tuesday overreactions. Because, I mean, I don't think, like, if any of you out there overreacted, well, you should have. Like, I mean, I just looked at it and shook my head and then sent a couple of texts and I'm like, Jesus. Like,
dude, I don't even think she would blame people for overreacting. I think she has to know that this is a bold, holy S type of move that probably wasn't going to go over very well. And
I'm not sure. I
don't know, man. I kind of wonder if I kind of wonder about it. I really,
I
guess we'll find out.
And again, she's not the like, she was young when Vivek bought the team, and she's not old now. But I mean, he's been the owner for like 9 seasons, so it's not like she's like a kid, which is something that should be mentioned. It's not like he handed like the keys to the Stockton Kings over to like a 16-year-old or something.
And by the way, I don't have children, at least that I know of, and I would. I'm just kidding. I would probably do something similar. I wouldn't make her the assistant GM, but if I knew that my daughter wanted to find a way in, I'd find a churched up title and let her learn and cut her teeth and do what she wants to do. But I feel like when you get in a position of power like Vivek Ranadivé and the whole world, you have the whole world in your hands, money and power and all that. Why not? I guess that's I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know.
I guess, I mean, it's not like fans are going to think worse of you at this point. So, I mean, it's on him to actually rebuild what he's going to do. And I've been clear too. If I owned the Sacramento Kings, my 19-year-old would be part of like what I was doing. He'd be with me every day learning.
He wouldn't be the ball boy, right? You wouldn't make him the ball boy.
No, he'd be learning the process, but he'd have to put in his stripes, and he'd be bringing me ideas, and I'd be shooting him down, and I wouldn't have him talking to a bunch of other people outside of me. Like, it would be a tight circle where he was sort of my sounding board. But, I've been honest about that forever, and we talk a lot about basketball and everything else, but I can also tell you that My son can not only name every single player in the NBA, he can also tell you every single player in every league in soccer all across Europe and everywhere. He can tell you by their position and the flag that pops up who the player is and everything else. I mean, but it's because he plays FIFA and does, he plays other video games. But again, he's like a junkie with this stuff. And so, I would at least listen. But again, I'm not going to own the Sacramento Kings anytime soon. And so I guess I don't have to worry about that. Let's get back to the business of basketball. We do have this incredible day that happens for the Sacramento Kings. To be honest with you, I'm really, really happy for Kings fans because it's fun when you have these days. Moving up to the number 4 pick is fun, and it adds more ammo. But we'll start with Brenden. Brenden, if you were, if the draft were tomorrow, what would you do? Would you keep it? Would you trade it? Would you trade down? Would you trade up? What would you do? If the draft is tomorrow, go.
I'm probably trading it. If any of Paulo, Chet, or Jabari are there, I'm quickly taking them. But if not, I'm looking to trade it. And if there happens to be no sort of deal that really does it for me, I'm taking Jaden Ivey.
You're still trading it?
Yeah, fair enough.
Just trade it.
I think that there is a real argument that Jaden Ivey's kind of too talented to pass on, depending on what the deal is.
Yeah, even if he is a point guard and people go, oh, here we go again.
Another one, yeah.
I don't think he's a point guard.
I think he's kind of a 2.
He's a playmaker is what
he
I
plays
like.
off the ball a lot, too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, but when he
But you
gets
run into
downhill,
some of the same hiccups that you had with Fox and Tyrese.
Okay, Sean?
Yeah, man, I think the trade is exploring any and all trades at this point because I don't think this is a team that needs to get younger. This is a team to me where they've kind of set a course of action that they want to see be relevant right away. And I don't see how getting younger is going to do that for you. You're not, you're definitely not the Warriors who have got these nice young talents just stashed, ready to go, but you're also competing. I feel like you're trying to make yourself compete right away. And to me, I feel this is the best path possible for you to do that. And I love that they've moved up because again, it makes it a little more interesting. But maybe now you trade down. Maybe now you package. Maybe I think you're looking at a lot of teams right now. And the fun part about it is I think Monty McNair knows what the temperature of the room was just a few months back, and they're always constantly having conversations. So it's interesting to see how teams have shifted from, again, we talk about how fast the NBA world changes. You saw the Brooklyn and the Philadelphia stuff, and that didn't go well for really either team. And I think Sacramento dodged a huge bullet with the Ben Simmons stuff. So I think looking at what they were able to accomplish and seeing the way the landscape has changed a bit, knowing what's on deck here with free agency, I think they're in a really interesting situation. It's going to be a very interesting offseason, and it's definitely going to begin with this draft.
Yeah, I think it is going to be interesting too. And if I'm at number 4, I'm going to wait until the last possible minute, and I'm going to see if one of those big guys fall. One of them falls, I'm going to take them. If not, I'm shopping this pick hard. I want to know exactly what, if I've got 3 or 4 options coming into draft night, I've got them all laid out on the board, and I've got them stacked up like option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. And, if number 1 works out, I'm going there quick. But I really do think that, if the goal is to win this season, it's to make the playoffs this season, I think it's worth gold. The number 4 pick is worth gold on the open market, and you can go get a very, very good either all-star or step below all-star level player without having to give up multiple years, without having to give up the 2024, the 2026. I think you can really get a lot for this pick, even though, again, it's not the greatest draft, but it's also not a horrible draft, and high-level picks are always worth a ton.
Is there names that come to mind in a potential trade? Like
I like the John Collins stuff, and I like somebody
Yeah.
who brought up Pascal Siakam. I think I don't think he's going anywhere, but it's clearly a name. The other one I kind of, we kind of floated it out there earlier this year is wondering what happens with the Clippers. Is Paul George possibly on the move? Is there something like that? I don't know what the Clippers are going to do with what Kawhi and Paul George, and maybe they run that back. Who knows? But those are some of those people. And DB, I do see you. I cannot. I really appreciate a lot of those comments. I just actually can't remember how to feature any of those comments. So
You just hover over them and say
it
show.
might not work on our end right now.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
James holds the power. It's all good, DB.
Yeah. So look, you brought up Siakam. I think that moving from 7 to 4 means talking about Jeremy Grant versus talking about Pascal Siakam. I mean, that's what this did. That you go from talking about a good NBA player, another Harrison Barnes level player, and Jeremy Grant, to the potential for Pascal Siakam or a potential for John Collins. Either an all-star, near all-star level player. That's what the number 4 pick is worth, and to me, that's tremendous, and that's why I think everyone should be excited.
Yeah.
We talked about Bradley Beal at one point. You remember that I thought that was a pipe dream for Sacramento. But I kind of think of that one. I kind of feel like there's a pathway, not necessarily for the Kings, but with the Blazers. And I think it wasn't for nothing. Like, anybody surprised to see Dame Lillard show up at the draft, at the lottery here? I mean, that was a pretty big moment for that organization, I feel, based off all the turmoil that's gone on. You didn't see their brand new GM sitting there. You saw Dame Lillard, who, some people feel like he's trade bait or he's out, he's going to be gone.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? And again, maybe this adds just more of a Dame CJ component from what that didn't work before. But Bradley Beal and Dame Lillard together could be kind of an interesting scenario in some fashion.
I'd also say just look how much better position the Kings are in than Portland.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
I
making
agree.
that jump, like I just call you out, Vince. Vince, there is no way the Kings would trade the number 4 for the number 7 and pick up Josh Hart. This is worth way more than that. Like, the NFL has a very strict, like, sort of calculator for trades as far as like draft picks and stuff. But the NBA, like, just a move, didn't the Mavs and the Hawks didn't Dallas give up their number 1 their next year first round pick to move up to take Luka, but to move from like was it 5 to 3?
Yeah, so it ended up being, was it DeAndre Hunter it was Cam Reddish and Trae Young for Luka Doncic in the end.
Right. Brendan nailed it. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that pick ended up being like the 10th pick, right? It ended up being that way. But still,
Something around there, yeah.
That's what these things are worth. That's what we're talking about. The number 4 pick, it really is worth a tremendous amount on the open market.
It's weird that I agree with you with what you said about Sacramento in relation to Portland, because at the end of the day, they still have freaking Dame Lillard. You know what I mean? Like, to say that you're still there with thinking better about what the situation roster-wise, cap-wise, all that means for Sacramento, having all their picks, having the 4th pick, but yet they still have a superstar in Dame Lillard.
Yeah.
Kind of wild.
It is wild. It's wild. All right. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Brenden, what you got?
Yeah, did you finish any homework assignments, Brennan? I know we give you a lot.
Not yet. Yeah, I'm still working on it. Oh, those homework assignments. Also not yet. Still working on it.
You haven't watched There's Something About Mary yet?
I have not. I literally will turn it on right after this, actually, though.
Oh.
All right. He's going for an all-nighter.
Have you guys for next episode. No, I'm definitely going to fall asleep during it, but then I'll finish it tomorrow night.
No, I don't think you will.
Before the end of the episode.
Your belly will hurt. The dog will be sitting there looking at you like, why are you laughing so hard?
Anytime anybody says I'm going to start the movie, I'll probably fall asleep and I'll watch it. Never do that. Just don't do it. Just make sure you can sit through the entire thing. It's not like some 3-hour epic, Brendan. Just sit down, watch it tomorrow. Don't do it tonight. Watch it tomorrow so you can howl Yeah, it's a school night. That is true. Brendan, JVZ totally nailed it. It's a school
Yeah.
night for Brendan.
I'll get grounded.
But you know what?
I'll ask
he has
the
to
TV.
He might have to cram because the homework assignment is due.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well,
my
hey,
last little basketball thing. I'm not sure that if it was a top 6 or 8 protected first next year and this year's, that I wouldn't move to take Jabari or Chet.
oof.
Can you say that one more time? I just want to make sure I understood what you just said.
He would give up next year's pick as well as long
I'm
as
not
it was
sure that
like
it's like a for
6 or
sure
8
no.
picks.
I think it's something that I would consider.
Next year's
To
draft
move
is
up,
good.
to move up to
yeah,
get one
to
of those.
move up to get Jabari or Chet. I mean, Sean, you like Jabari. What if it was Jabari?
I really like Jabari. I really do. He's the one I like the most with a bullet. I think he goes number 1. As Miggs just said, Chet does scare me. Like, I have legit concerns about Chet Holmgren. I do. Particularly with the Kings, by the way. Because let's be honest, they don't really develop players very well. And, I think they've done a better job lately. I think they have. But will Rico Hines still be around? Well, we don't know these questions. We don't have the answers to these questions yet. So
That's right.
Yeah, man. I was curious about that because I know we continue to have these conversations about like whether they will move up or not, whether they will, if there's any guy you would move up for to move into the top 3 or possibly get creative. I don't know that I'm there with that. I really do like Jabari Smith though, and I think he's a guy if you draft, you can contribute right away, and I think he'd be probably. I think he could easily take over Rookie of the Year. I don't think this draft. I know everyone's a product of their environment and situations, but I think this draft is not that deep, and possibly later on, I think guys can develop, but I don't think of contributing players right away when I think of this draft.
Interesting. Yeah. I think the age of COVID is part of that. I think that there's a lot of these guys just haven't played the sheer volume of games. I think that's the one thing about Chet that I'll point out. Like he has been a known player for so long. Everyone knows that his skill set is much bigger than what we saw at Gonzaga last year. So, yeah, definitely.
Wait, James, did we have a bet if the Kings jumped in the lottery?
Oh,
I wasn't in on this.
Oh my God, we did.
So my money's
we did
safe.
have a bet.
What happened?
Oh shit, we did.
You know what we have to do though? Here's how we'll handle this. We had a bet if the Kings moved up. But I think it was like 1 or 2, but still we have to do it. We'll do a live show on draft night, right? And on draft night we'll do a live show, and I will shave my beard and wear a headband and look like Drew Timmy. I'll go full handlebar. And Brenden,
who, by the way, looks like Carmichael Dave, right? We all agree, right?
don't be mean.
No, he knows it. Oh, Jesus Christ, he knows it. We talked about that.
No, I meant to.
Oh, mean
Timmy.
to. That's true. Come
on.
I see you working, my guy.
I see ya. But Brenden has a couple of weeks to grow out a mustache, and he's got to come as Doug.
There's
Doug
no
Etter,
chance he can do
St.
that.
Peters. We'll see.
Yeah. No,
It'll
he's
be
gonna
all right.
come. He's gonna be Doug from. Yeah. So I'll go.
I can get
full,
close to it.
I'll go full handlebar and go Drew Timmy, and he'll be.
If you care to join it all, Sean, you can let us know next episode.
I can't grow facial hair very well. I don't know why that is. I think it's I am half Japanese for people who don't know that. I don't look like it, I know. But from what I'm told is a lot of Japanese people can't connect their goatees very well. So I'm kind of screwed, man.
Yeah, I can grow one in 2 weeks fully. Yep. Awesome.
We're gonna
All
see
right.
how I hold up.
We're gonna see how you hold up, but we're gonna be ready for draft night. We'll do this again. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. If you're still on and you haven't already given us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs up. Give us a subscription to the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Also, jump on board with the Kings Beat. We're growing so fast. It's been so much fun. We got a happy hour coming up. It's not this coming week, but the following week we'll do a happy hour.
Wait, we gotta do it before Bottle Rock, though, right?
When is Bottle Rock?
Memorial Day weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's in Napa. Come visit me.
Okay. I'll probably be on a boat out on the lake, but
I'll be catching up on movies.
Yeah, he'll be catching up on movies. But yeah, give us a rating, review, all that stuff. We'll figure out when the happy hour is going to be exactly. I'm waiting for confirmation on the guest. I'm excited about the guest. I'm hoping that I will get that confirmation the next day or two, and we'll kind of, lock that in. But that, of course, is for premium subscribers to the Kings Beat. So jump on board. We're doing awesome things here, and we're having a good time doing it. So for Fox 40's Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast and the Kings Herald, I am James Ham, your Kings Insider for ESPN 1320. I'll be on there all day tomorrow, so jump on and join me and Kenny Caraway. I think I'm on for 4 hours straight. So we'll see you tomorrow.